Hi, good, good. Yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you today, and I'll go ahead and introduce you
Okay.
before we start. So, hey everyone. So today we're gonna have Kerri Potthoff talk to us, and she has over 7 years of experience as a speech language pathologist and also a certified brain injury specialist. So she's the founder of the Brain Healing Collective and the innovative Reconnect program. So today she is going to share valuable insights, resources, and strategies with stroke survivors as well as their families. So I'm excited to introduce Kerri Potthoff.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation today. And yes, exactly. I am a speech therapist. I've been working with brain injury for the last 7 years, and that's always kind of been my passion is neuro rehab. So, we can kind of answer questions as they come up in the chat. I'd love for this to be engaging and back and forth. So, if you have any questions that come up, any topics, feel free to just post them in the chat. Fat and I will continue to look and make sure we're addressing them. And if not in the moment, we'll at least address them at the end. So, yeah, so I'm excited to talk today a little bit about kind of what I'm seeing, kind of why and how the Reconnect program came to be through the Brain Healing Collective, and then maybe any helpful strategies that could be helpful for managing cognitive fatigue or daily habits and routines that can be helpful to support memory and executive functioning. So, it should be a good chat. So, um, I'll
Oh
go.
yeah, definitely. Thank you for jumping on. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I think it'll be great. And I'll continue to pause and kind of check the chat to make sure I'm not missing anything. But
Okay.
to start, I was kind of hoping to dive into, like I said, what I'm seeing after inpatient rehab and what happens to folks once they get home and are back in their community. So, um, the reason I actually started the Brain Healing Collective was I had been working in inpatient rehab for 7 years at the time and kind of noticing a gap in care once people were home and discharged from inpatient rehab, discharged maybe from outpatient or home health. And now living at home in their community, but maybe struggling from an identity standpoint, not working, not driving, so spending a lot more time at home, feeling a little bit isolated. And so I was hearing from previous patients of mine that were more struggling, like a year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years post, with that isolation piece and like lack of community and connection. So the reason I created that the Brain Healing Collective in general is to create a community where people can connect and feel seen and know that someone else is out there dealing with a similar situation, especially when people are discharged from the hospital setting. Maybe you live in a remote area, like very remote Minnesota, and you may not know anyone else who's had a stroke, especially if you're a younger stroke survivor or a younger brain injury. And you may not even know one person in your community who's had a similar experience. So it can be really hard to reintegrate back into your community. Even connecting with old friends and family can be challenging. So I really wanted to fill that gap and support there and build an online community that has consistency, repetition, and you know what you're going to get either in week to week. So that's how the Brain Healing Collective came to be. And then the specific program that I'm launching on Sunday is called the Reconnect program. And it is founded in those pillars of community, mindfulness, and movement. Those are the three pillars of the Reconnect program. And it's divided among 8 weeks. So it's an 8 week online program to help fill that gap for folks who are living at home, maybe in remote communities, and to have consistent people show up day to day. So I can talk a little bit more about the Reconnect program if you guys are interested in what that looks like and how it's structured. The Reconnect
Yeah,
program,
let's hear it.
yeah. So the Reconnect program has the support of me week to week. So it has cognitive sessions one on one with me. And a lot of that, the first 1 to 2 weeks, is going to be goal setting and really sitting down and thinking about tangible goals that we can write down in the workbook. So I created a workbook that runs smoothly with the program. So a lot of it is goal setting, which at this phase in recovery is a lot of compensatory strategy training. So creating new habits, being very aware and mindful of how your body is feeling, how your nervous system is feeling, and being able to compensate and help use strategies to regulate. So that's a huge part of it, is kind of that meditation piece I'll throw in, as well as mindfulness and awareness, self-regulation, and self-monitoring of your body and your behavior. So we'll have those one-to-one sessions weekly with me, as well as group sessions. So right now we're running a cohort of 4 to 6. We have 4 spots filled. Open to adding a few more to fill it to 6, but we're kind of at that sweet spot of having a group session week to week with me. And then I also have a peer mentor who's on board. Her name's Kristen Bowman. She's amazing. She is a severe traumatic brain injury survivor, and her injury was 3 years ago, and now she is spending her time just volunteering with the Healing Collective and wanting to relate, connect, and support with other either acquired brain injury survivors, whether it be stroke or traumatic brain injury. So Kristen's amazing. She's going to be offering one-to-one support and group sessions as well throughout the week. So we have her support, as well as another um he suffered an aneurysm and he is now a counselor. So he'll be supporting via group grief sessions weekly. So we kind of are, the goal is for a holistic approach. And I think we've achieved it with kind of the 3 disciplines we have going. And at this phase in recovery, you've received all of the therapy. You've received PT, OT, speech, neuropsychology, and hopefully the goal is you have some helpful tools, but real life isn't always as kind to us. So this is kind of an accountability check and really driven by the members and their goals. So it's cool because you have the group to go along with it, but you also have your very personal goals throughout the journey. So we're really excited. We start on Sunday at 3 o'clock Mountain Time.
Well, that's awesome that you have actual survivors attending as well or helping with the program.
Yes, that's what was really important to me, is what I kept hearing from previous patients is that they almost felt as like, again, like in more rural areas that don't have maybe the resources, that their providers didn't really understand their injury or what they were going through. As like, even I remember one patient telling me like she just wished her psychologist had like any experience with traumatic brain injury. And those exist out there and definitely via telehealth. But I think this is going to be like a one-stop shop for that support. And having that experience, that lived experience, is super rare and huge, and that's why I'm so excited to have these guys on board with us.
Yeah, I can completely relate with everything you're saying. And you know what, for you to experience that through your experience, you see that firsthand. So I think that's the best person to teach it.
Yeah, yeah, and what I love about my scope is I really do love the cognitive piece and the metacognition piece, so really thinking about our thinking skills and executive function. A lot of that is what we're targeting more once you're home. Like in my inpatient role, I'm maybe not targeting that so much, but how functional it is to see people where they're at 1 year, 2 years post injury, to support and give strategies that can help in those situations. I want it to be very real life, and I think this is the best way to do it and to see that change.
Big time.
So yeah, I think, well, I kind of posted a poll that I think a couple weeks ago about what is one of the most annoying things about brain injury or living with brain injury, years post. And cognitive fatigue continues to be a very prevalent one, a very frustrating one. And the biggest thing is, I want to give some strategies for that today. And feel free to ask questions in the chat or any strategy for me to expand. But the cognitive fatigue, the neural fatigue continues to come up. And it's something that people live with and probably learn to live with throughout. So I think giving some strategies for that hidden challenge could be helpful today, if that's a good topic.
Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. I'm still living with it. It has improved a lot. but I'm still learning how to adjust, and live with it.
And I think that's like again a huge part of the Brain Healing Collective is just knowing that there's other people out there dealing with it too, and that you're not alone in this. So I think that is provides some comfort to like know that other stroke survivors, other people living with acquired brain injury are dealing with this neuro fatigue, and it's real and it's valid, and you're not being dramatic or just feeling tired. I think a lot of people, yeah, I see a comment. I struggle with sustaining focus. Yeah, and I think again, a lot of this is just being very aware of checking in with yourself, how you're feeling, where you're at when you like think of your energy like a gas meter, you know. Um, so as far as cognitive fatigue, we think of our brain after these injuries are trying to take in all the stimuli. So visually, what we're hearing, what we're seeing, even movement can be very fatiguing. So after a brain injury, your brain is kind of on overdrive to process all of this information and all the stimuli coming into it. And I know a lot of you living with it are know this and are experiencing it, and it may be harder to process. It may be harder to sustain focus, like Spirit said. And so really being aware of how you're managing your cognitive fatigue throughout the day. I think of like real life examples, even just reading, socializing or going to an event, working on the computer, anything with maybe screens could be challenging, grocery shopping. If you continue to push yourself throughout your day with all of this stimuli, a lot of people will just shut down and maybe even have what we call like a fatigue hangover, the next day or leading into the next day. So, what I always suggest with my patients is kind of mapping out your week and planning out your bigger outings. So, let's say you need to go grocery shopping or you need to run to the mall. I wouldn't suggest doing those two things in the same day, right? So, kind of mapping out, okay, Tuesday I'll do the grocery shopping, maybe Thursday afternoon I'll make time for the mall, and then front loading that day with more relaxing, chill activities that aren't going to take so much from your gas tank. I think of there's this pie chart in a book called the TBI Survival Kit. I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's a very helpful book. And each chapter is divvied up into um, different topics. So there's a topic called like attention, a topic or a chapter called memory, and then there's one called fatigue or energy. And what it talks about in one of the energy chapter is kind of managing your energy like a gas meter, like I said earlier. So, kind of being aware and checking in with yourself throughout your day of where you're at. And then thinking of pre injury, if we're looking at a pie chart, things like emotional fatigue, cognitive or mental fatigue, physical fatigue, and then reserve. Those four were equally divvied up prior to your injury, likely. So the amount of physical, the amount of cognitive, the amount of emotional, and reserve are all the same 25, 25, 25. And then post injury, you look back at this pie chart and the reserve has come to a sliver, and physical, emotional, and cognitive have taken up bigger portions of the pie. So I bring that up just because it is real to really have to plan out these tasks that we took for granted, maybe that other people can cram in 3 to 4 errands in a day. Right now, your brain can't handle that, and that's okay. And there's ways to be successful without cramming in a ton of errands in a day. So that's why I suggest mapping out your week and then filling it with some of the lighter tasks, but also like just being mindful of like, I'll do this and then I'll take a break, or I'm going to set my timer for 10 minutes. I'm only going to work on the computer for 10 minutes. And then I'm going to check in with myself and see if I can continue or take a break. I think kind of structuring your day and the consistency of like taking breaks at the same time each day is also really helpful from a memory and executive function standpoint. Just going to look at the chat here and see what everyone's saying. So Spirit, it was so hard just to find words, and I feel like ADD now. Reading is easier but hard with the amount of information coming at me. Exactly. I think too, a big symptom people will say is like, especially when you're fatigued, you may notice like the word finding increase and be like, oh, okay, maybe I am tired, so really being mindful of some of those like very telling symptoms of word finding increasing. Maybe you need to take a break. Reading, you can read, but just maybe processing that information can be a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely like a very prevalent one, is like the not the fluency of your reading, but definitely like retaining that information. The memory piece of it can be a big piece of it. And then just reading some more of these
Yeah.
comments. Wow, thank you for sharing, B. Any helpful links for reading, etc. Yeah, we can attach any resources at the end of the call that could be helpful. Yeah, and then with physical comes the mental fatigue. Exactly. I think it's interesting too, like, um, people will be like, "Gosh, I'm so tired from my physical therapy today." Like, physically feeling very tired, or like, "So tired from my workout," because that's so tangible. And then this
Mhm.
whole concept of cognitive fatigue is so new. Like, really checking in and being like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
actually don't feel well." And I think it takes a while for people to understand that that is cognitive fatigue, because this is all new to you too. So, that like
Mhm.
shutting down or headaches, all of it, just really being mindful of how you're managing throughout your day. Because like I said, it can really take it out of you for like the next day, even, or the next morning. And
Yeah, yeah.
sleep hygiene plays a huge part of it, of just really maybe pre-injury you required 6 hours of sleep. The sleep hygiene is huge. So I would recommend nothing less than 9 after an injury, just because your brain needs that recovery time from all the stimulation throughout your day. It's still healing. So, um, yeah, I think sleep hygiene and being mindful of how you're winding down at the end of the day without blue light, kind of low stim activities in the end of the evening, and then even like talk about morning routine is just critical too. Avoiding picking up your phone and just immediately bombarding your brain with stimuli like Instagram or whatever,
Yeah.
and kind of having like a more restful easing your way into your day can be helpful from all of like an anxiety standpoint, but from a cognitive fatigue standpoint as well. So, um, you know, I mentioned mindfulness earlier because it's a huge pillar from the Brain Healing Collective, but I think really believe in that throughout your day too, sprinkling in some quiet time for yourself. It doesn't have to be meditation, but maybe it's journaling for 2 minutes or writing down something you're grateful for. But really kind of slowing our pace, which I don't know if a lot of you are in the US right now, but our culture is just so fast paced, and we're just
Yeah.
you think this way. And I really think your brain after an injury may want to go like all gas, no brakes, and just go, go, go. And that on top of like our culture is really hard to retrain to slow down. So I really do believe in incorporating mindfulness at some point throughout your day, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's going on a walk, but something low stim and something to help you reflect and really check in with your body and your nervous system to see how you're feeling.
Yeah, I really love how you're breaking down all these things because I don't hear about it a lot, but those are things that I practice. And
Yeah.
I like how Spirit Junkie had mentioned he started Jim Quick program last August, and I really believe in his stuff too. Jim Quick, he had
Um,
a traumatic brain injury, and now he's like a memory master or something.
that's so cool. I'll have to look into that. I haven't heard of him before.
Oh, okay, yeah, he helped like train like the X-Men or something like on memory stuff.
Wow. Yeah, I'll have to write that down. That's cool. Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, all of these comments are super relevant. And I love Spirit, how you talked about your sleeping beauty now, and then a ketogenic diet. Yeah, and I think too that plays to my next point is just like diet and nutrition, just be eating clean and also movement, which I mentioned as part of our pillar with Brain Healing Collective. But in some capacity, maybe it's chair yoga if you're in a wheelchair, maybe it's going for a walk, maybe it's going to lift weights or yoga, but any kind of movement that you can continue to build into your daily routine is very helpful for your brain healing, and also just for you to feel a little bit better. So it's helpful for anyone healthy brain or someone after an injury to kind of incorporate movement in some capacity throughout their day. So, and we talked about healthy sleep
Yeah.
habits and nutrition. Hydration is key too. I know before this chat, I was just telling Fat that I had way too much caffeine this morning. So
Me
don't
too.
do what I did.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
So yes, continuing to hydrate throughout your day. Other days are better than some days are better than others, and that's
Yeah.
yeah, and I just think like I know I've talked a lot about daily routine and habit. It's a huge part of cognition and how we are successful and safe and efficient throughout our day after an injury. So really, we want to maximize independence, and there's so many tools out there to do so. I rely a lot on technology for all of the things going on
Mm,
in my brain. Um, and I think after an injury, there's a lot of supports that we can tap into as far as technology. Maybe it's a reminder from your Google Home or your Alexa every day to remind you to take your meds at 8 a.m. Or maybe it's like a moment of reflection or mindfulness at 9 a.m. But you can have those prompts go off throughout your day, or your Google Calendar, they can announce your prompts or your events throughout your day. So you're not just getting the phone reminder, the tactile one, but like an auditory reminder. And like I said earlier, keeping your routine very similar and structured day to day is super helpful for a memory standpoint and an executive
okay.
standpoint. So keeping it, you'll notice less errors. You'll maybe feel safer. You'll know what to expect from a memory standpoint. So really, I do believe in like creating those healthy habits and kind of sticking to it for a while to create it and see if it's helpful and helpful as far as like moving your day a little bit more efficiently and safely.
It's really nice to hear that coming from you, with your experience, because I'm doing a lot of them too, so that's cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and again, we can't do it all. So like as much as you can sprinkle in is so helpful to help your body feel better, and I'm a big believer in like having your nervous system feel safe, and so as much as input that we can do day to day that helps us feel safe, regulated, and know what to expect is helpful for our body. So
Yeah.
yeah, those
And
are
I think starting small too and just building the habits,
e
slowly.
exactly, and I think that's what's hard when you're left at home. Maybe you're not getting outpatient or home health anymore, or maybe you don't have the accountability of a therapist. But finding a way to hold yourself accountable, whether it be like goal setting or journaling, but like a tangible way to kind of build those daily habits because it takes time and they're likely new habits. Maybe there's something you weren't doing before your stroke or your injury. So, giving yourself grace and doing the small steps is huge. And it doesn't, I just think sometimes we pick off more than we can chew and try. I'm going to shoot for these 5 goals, or I'm going to do these 5 things today that are totally new. Let's maybe just start with one for 1 to 2 weeks and see how that goes. Self reflect, take a step back. Do I need to pivot? Can I add something new into the mix? Am I ready for that yet? Or maybe we just stay here and kind of settle into this new routine. So,
Yeah, that's true. I love that. And there are times I feel like I've let myself down, I think especially in the beginning, and it's okay, I think just don't give up, just keep on being consistent.
right.
So yeah, Spirit Junkie did ask, does having symptoms from other areas of the brain happen often? I had a cerebellum stroke, but had lots of verbal difficulties. Just curious.
Yes. Yeah. Really good question. So it sounds like you had a cerebellar stroke, but you had lots of verbal difficulties. That is interesting. Yes, cerebellar stroke probably experienced a lot of like loss of balance, difficulty maybe with your speech output. Um, but as far as verbal difficulties, I think what's interesting with stroke.
Oh, wait, sorry. There was a little connection
Oh,
issue on
sorry.
my end.
Did you guys get that?
Yeah. Oh, can you just say it one more time?
Yeah. So I was saying with it sounds like you had a cerebellar stroke spirit, but are experiencing some verbal difficulties. Um, Cerebellar strokes usually are associated with balance and coordination, and then that could impact your speech fluency as well. Um, but as far as verbal difficulties, I'm wondering, is it more your output or your word finding or both? Ver- Spirit, if you could answer in the chat, that would be helpful. Um, I anticipate your output was maybe more ataxic in nature, but it what's what's interesting about stroke is that it's vascular. Yeah, it was both. Vascular. So
Mine
uh,
was both too.
everything is communicating with each other. So just because it was a cerebellar stroke, but our language centers are primarily in the temporal lobe and partially in the frontal lobe. Um, yeah, it's just because it's in either of those lobes. It doesn't mean they don't connect with each other. They don't communicate with each other. So that is part like which I think is different from a traumatic brain injury. It might be more focal or kind of in one area. With a stroke, it's vascular. So that communication piece between parts of the brain do interact. And that could be why you had difficulty with additionally the word finding.
Okay.
Right. B, I'm just reading your comment. Wow. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's and I hope she's
Oh
doing better.
yeah, thank you.
And that's a big point, really, I think. Fat you and I have talked about this is how the brain injury doesn't just happen to the individual, but it happens to the whole family and the whole family system. So um
Okay.
it really disrupts the whole family and is a challenge. And caregiver fatigue is a real thing. And I hope to provide more support for that down the road with the Brain Healing Collective, is how to support caregivers. And being able to connect caregivers would be an amazing goal of mine. But I think just being really mindful of taking breaks and taking care of yourself as a caregiver is, if I could give one piece of advice, that would be huge because it is a lot on parents or on loved ones who are caring for their it sounds like traumatic brain injury in this situation, but an acquired brain injury survivor. So yeah, I think that is something to really be mindful of, is the long
Yeah.
game with caregivers and families.
Yeah, I feel like, you talking about caregivers and stuff, and I hope I can help with that. I think we can do a lot together.
Yeah, yeah, that would be awesome. I'd love to connect more and brainstorm about how we can continue to reach caregivers. Yeah. Um, yeah. Well, yeah, Spirit, I'm glad we could provide a little bit of information today. And if you ever have more questions, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or via email. And we'll include those. But my Instagram is at brain_healing_collective. And then we'll include my email a little bit later and I'll include it in the chat. But yeah, I'm always happy to take the time to kind of educate too. And a lot of the support that the Brain Healing Collective community provides is just resources and helpful information. So there's more to come with that.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I had a cerebellar stroke just like Spirit Junkie, so yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
I didn't know it was a cerebellar. And remind me when your stroke was.
Mine was in 2021, so I
Okay.
was 36 at the time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's been
Like,
about four
are you
years.
okay? Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the things I've been doing, it's evolved, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like especially in the beginning, it was really slow movement or
Did you
progress.
I'm curious, did you similarly like Spirit have the verbal fluency difficulties or word finding difficulties as well?
Yeah, I did. I did have both.
Yeah.
And so I did have, well, I experienced the aphasia more in the beginning.
Mhm. Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Well, your aphasia, I mean, I didn't even notice. So you've come a long way.
Well, one of my friends, she's a stroke survivor, and she like recorded a message of me, like a voicemail of me in the beginning, and she deleted it now, but I sounded completely. They're different. I could barely
Really?
talk.
Wow. Well, yeah, and I think that's encouraging for other people to hear is that there's progress, there's hope, and progress doesn't necessarily stop, so that's encouraging.
Yeah, true. That's a big one.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Yeah, thank you
Go ahead.
so much for your time, Carrie. I don't know if you had anything else you want to
No,
talk
I
about.
think that was really the gist of it. I kind of Spirit, thank you for engaging, and B Gene as well. If you guys have additional questions, you can reach out. But yeah, I don't think I have any other like burning topics to discuss. We can always do more of these if you guys
Yes.
did. So
Yeah, okay, perfect. You went over so much good stuff. Thank you so much for
yeah,
your
thank
time.
you.
Yeah, and it was fun. Hopefully everyone had a good time and we'll do more of these.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Carrie, thank you. Take care. Have a good day.
Too. Bye bye.
All right, bye guys.
Bye guys.